Hi guys, it's Siva. I just finished my Assassination Rogue artifact challenge on the Broken Shore, that is to get the Ghostblades. I thought I would show you the video of how I did it and explain a little bit of what it was like, so that way when you do your artifact challenge you'll have a better idea of what you're getting into. So a quick overview of what I went into the fight with. My equipped item level was 906. I used every consumable available to me. I used Drums of the Mountain for heroism, Bloodlust. I used Potion of Prolonged Power. 2 I pre-potted and used 1 in the fight. Of course you can use the better potions as well. I used the Defiled Augmentation Rune for agility. I used Well Fed for mastery, and I used a flask. And I used all of those on every single attempt. It took me about 3 or 4 attempts, I think, to get this down at this item level, which is not too bad. I also used the Deadly Boss mod plug-in called Challenges that's just for the artifact quests. I'm sure Bigwigs has a comparable one, but it doesn't come with it by default, so I highly recommend that you use that add-on plug-in for better timers. So the legendaries I used was the neck that gives you the health bubble. I found that survivability was a little bit better than my DPS legendaries. I also used the pants where if you faint it heals you. I've actually never used those before, but that heal was like crazy strong, and of course faint doesn't have a cooldown, so you can use it as much as you have the energy for. Your DPS does not matter on this fight, your survival does, so that's great. And I swapped some talents around. I swapped my level 60 talent, my level 75 talent, and my level 90 talent. The level 60 one in particular, Leeching Poison, can help a lot. Usually I use Elusiveness or Cheat Death, but I found that Leeching Poison was a good pick, even paired with the Faint Pants. You can do this with any legendaries you have. Those are just the 2 I used because I happen to have them and I thought they would be helpful, and they worked pretty good. Now let's go into the fight itself.
Outsider has come to stop me? I owe you much, but I cannot allow you to impede my quest for justice. I will give you a choice. Live here or die. Very well. You have chosen death.
So, as I mentioned, this fight is all about execution of mechanics and survival. It is not about DPS. You can take as long as you want to on DPS. Your item level really only helps as so far as your survival. You can see from watching my weak auras in here that I actually do pretty bad on my rotation, and I'm also really bad at keeping Rupture up on the other guys, which of course you don't have to do, but free energy is nice, right? So, but it doesn't matter, because as long as you live to the end, then that's fine. So, like, I used my survival legendaries. My rotation was not super great, but it doesn't matter. So long as you live, you can get them down. So, a couple tips. A lot of people use a focus macro to toss blind on Sigrund when she does her Blood of the Father, which you need to CC her somehow or cloak it. It lasts too long. You can't just stun her out of it. You can't just cloak through it. You need to use a combination of things, or you can blind her. I don't use that kind of focus macro, so what I did is I just made her my focus, and I bound blind in Cleek to it, so I could just mouse over her frame and hit my hotkey for blind, and that would blind her no matter where I was in the room. I tend to prefer Cleek, even as a melee DPS, to do those sort of abilities, so I highly recommend something like that. I focused on the Runeseer for my DPS, the caster. He's the easiest, plus you will need to move a lot in the fight to run over runes or avoid spears or, you know, all sorts of different abilities, and he's the easiest one because you could just kick him and run and he'll follow you. I had a little bit of trouble, as you will see, getting him to move a lot of the times. He only follows you for a short bit and then he starts casting again immediately. So it's a little bit of a pain, but I found that I could find spacing around those runes in order to DPS him. If you want a rundown of all the abilities, I actually recommend finding a guide online. There are a lot of them. So I'm not going to go over every single little individual ability, but just my basic tips for how I did it. The runes, one thing I do want to mention is you want to run over the small ones first because they shrink, and when they disappear they explode. So of course go for the small ones first before the big one. Keep Rupture up on as many things as you can for excess energy. If Cake is on cooldown, you need to interrupt someone. Use Kidney Shot. Use Blind. One thing I do want to mention is you get a buff in this scenario that allows you to blind Sigrund, like, basically forever. There's no cooldown, or it's like it lasts for 30 seconds and there's a 30-second cooldown. Don't do that though. It still has diminishing returns as if it was PvP. So save that blind only for when she does that Blood of the Father ability, because that is when you really need it. So anyway, basically you just do that all the way to the end. There's these angels that come and you need to get in the gap between them. They come really fast. A lot of people compare them to the final boss in Vault, where you have the lines of ghosts and you need to find the gap, but it's actually not like that at all. They line up and then they rush really fast. So you need to have yourself in line with that gap before they rush. They will one-shot you if your health is not full. I used Feint constantly because I had the pants that healed me. Even if I was at full health, I was just running that Feint. It's an energy cost, but again, survival is the most important thing. Everything else is mostly just like run out of bad, which is really intuitive. You kind of almost don't need a boss mod to help you with that, but I found it was really helpful just so it would yell at me a little bit better. If you don't normally use keybinds, you'll want to keybind stuff. I know personally I have a finite amount of keybind space. My hands are very small, it's hard for me to reach stuff, so I tend to swap abilities around. One things that you'll definitely want on keybound for this fight, you know, sprint, cloak, evasion, blind, those sort of things, feint if you're using feint, and I highly recommend that you do. So yeah, basically that's all it is. Just live to the end and then you get it, and you get these awesome daggers, and I will show you them at the end of the video when you're done watching me fuck around through this whole thing. I draw upon the power of my ancestors! Beware.
What am I doing? This is not right!
You must overcome the corruption, Sigrun. You have the strength!
But, Mother, I must avenge your death!
Vengeance will not bring her back, Sigrun. Your people require a leader. If you fail, the Tidescorn are doomed.
No. The Fel will not take me! It will not! Forgive me here. What is your purpose? I will not falter.
I am pleased to see you returned. My judgment is this. You are to assume the burden of the crown.
What?
You must become
Surely after the mistakes
God
I've
Queen.
made, I am unfit to rule our people.
You possess the strength and will to overcome the Fel. Something no Vrykul before you has ever done. I know now that my visions were true. You are destined to unite the Tidescorn against the Legion. Can you set aside your misgivings and do what is needed for your people?
I will. If it takes my last breath, I will unite the Tidescorn once more, so that we may drive the Legion from this land.
It is done! Rise, Sigrun! I name you God Queen of the Tidescorn!
It seems you were right, outsider. Thank you for helping me find my path. My shield is ready. Gods go with you.
Knowledge is power, but using it wisely is the key. You are our last best hope. Gul'dan and the Legion must be stopped. Without you, Azeroth will surely fall.
Thank you for watching, guys.